Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw with Insider Travel Report, and I'm here with Zane Kirby, who is President and CEO of the American Society of Travel Advisors. Now, we're in the second month, really, I think, of the coronavirus crisis. I've kind of lost count, which has obviously severely impacted the U.S., the world, and actually the travel industry and travel advisors greatly. Now, ASTA, a few weeks ago, successfully lobbied for legislation, the CARES Act, to provide travel agencies and travel advisors with some relief, and then now is lobbying again for additional assistance. So we're going to talk to Zane about what ASTA is doing about that and other topics here on Insider Travel Report. Zane, first of all, I know you've been holding member-only calls. Could you give us a gist of what you talked about this week in a short form to your members?
Sure, James. Thanks. It's nice to be with you. Albeit under difficult circumstances. First off, we kind of reviewed the three programs that travel advisors qualify for relief under with the CARES Act. The first and maybe most broad-reaching within the CARES Act that applies to the vast majority of travel advisors, because so many of our members are self-employed or independent contractors. The unemployment benefits that are distributed and through the states, they are now eligible for those programs because they hadn't paid into them beforehand. Since they are self-employed, they were not eligible for unemployment benefits. But the CARES Act changed all that, and so again, for probably the most broad-reaching change in that the CARES Act brings about is giving independent contractors and self-employed access to unemployment benefits.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, as I mentioned, those are distributed state by state, and each state has different rules and different ways of determining how much relief people get. Some people have to use the average of the last 2 years worth of income plus a certain amount, and some states are limited to 26 weeks. Some states up to 39. It's sort of a hodgepodge of actual individual state laws and distribution methodologies, but the fact that travel advisors, the vast majority, again, of travel advisors are now eligible for this kind of relief is really good. The second one, the Payroll Protection Program, the second sort of tranche of aid available to travel advisors is a great one, because for ASTA's mid-sized businesses, those agencies that have fewer than 500 employees, they can apply under the Payroll Protection Program, and that means that they'll be able to get a loan for a certain amount, and then payroll, and the next 8 weeks of payroll plus rent plus some other goodies will be able those parts of the parts of the loan that apply to payroll and rent expense will be forgiven. So that's going to provide again some real relief for people who are keeping their travel advisors on the payroll.
Yeah.
The last one, and maybe the sort of, I don't know, it was really exciting for ASTA because the last time around in 2001, when there was a major disruption to the travel system, the association asked for relief but didn't get any. But this time around, we were named in the legislation for the special $25 billion for airlines and their ticket agents to be able to access to special funding, and again, we're still waiting impatiently for the Treasury Department to set out the parameters of how that will work. We get a feeling that it will apply to some of ASTA's largest members. Mm-hmm. That is also again, we're waiting impatiently for Treasury to give us the word on that, but we're really excited about that and glad that the government has stepped up and is providing relief for the various business models that ASTA members find themselves in.
Yeah, well, okay, so we have all these programs now approved, they're in legislation, and of course now the issue is getting the money. And how should travel advisors and travel agencies, what should they do to get relief now? I mean, obviously they want to go to their states, individual independent contractors could go to their states to get this unemployment benefit, and then small agencies have this other program, the payroll protection, and then obviously we're still waiting for Treasury to deal with the larger agencies. But is there anything that travel advisors and travel agencies be doing right now to make sure they get that money?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it depends on what category that you're in. If you need to file unemployment with your state unemployment office, if you're in that category. If you're in that payroll protection program, we've already advised our members to definitely go to one of the SBA's 1,700 lending institutions, banks. That's how the payroll protection. So it comes in the form of you getting a loan first, and then part of that loan being forgiven. That you can prove that you've used this money for payroll and rent over the next several months. So that's how those monies will flow.
Yeah, and I also understand there might be other opportunities for other additional SBA loans down the range that you can get a loan. I think the payroll protection is almost interest free or something, or it can be forgiven. But there might be an opportunity to get more SBA money in the future as well, right?
Yes, there is, and we're looking at obviously at round 4 of coronavirus relief legislation. There's much more to be done. No one thinks that neither Republicans nor Democrats were calling for round 4 as soon as round 3 was passed, and Republicans wanted to take more kind of a wait and see to see how this initial relief would be received by the market and how it would be received by the general populace and citizens of the United States before they decide to do more. But I don't think anyone on either side of the aisle thinks that we're done in terms of stimulus relief. So yeah, there are plenty of things that we should do, that we can do. We're obviously looking very carefully at what is sort of moving in Congress, what the mood is, what other industries are proposing and thinking about, and we have a laundry list that Eb and I are reviewing a little later this morning, that we're going to then go up and shop on the Hill. As Congress isn't in session. They passed three pieces of legislation in 10 days, and then they got out of town.
Oh, great.
And so they're recessed until April 26th, and maybe longer. Oh. Right? We're not sure that they don't want to get together in one room any more than anyone else does right now.
That's right.
So but we're certainly maneuvering behind the scenes now, trying to figure out exactly what our priorities are and what we're going to ask as soon as doors of Congress are open to receiving input.
Yeah. So what? Just give me a gist of what are the kind of things you think the travel agency business needs beyond in round 4. They have access to all this other money. Is maybe just extension of these programs, or is it something more?
Yeah, it's a lot of that, James, that we're thinking about right now. Obviously, the employee cap for payroll protection program, 500 is a little low, right? And especially with some of the business models that we find that our members find themselves in, some of the hosts that don't actually have employees, but
right.
Like we want that increased to 2,000, or it should be amended to provide flexibility to travel agencies with regard to businesses with more than one location, right, into SBA affiliation rules. The funding ceiling for the payroll protection program should be increased to $750 billion at least. Right now it's at $450. That needs more money. We also want the payroll protection program to be extended. Through no one thinks this is going to end in June.
No.
And so that needs to be extended to sometime later in the year, way later in the year. The loan threshold should also be increased. We have lots of priorities, James, that we're looking at now, and we're going to refine some of these. But yeah, there's a lot of work still to do.
Yeah, and indeed, we just got the government finally sort of convinced about what the model for a lot of travel agencies is, like the host agencies with lots of independent contractors who are all over the country. So it's challenging for their. I think maybe there are some other industries that have something similar, but it is definitely a fairly unique model.
Yeah, I mean, the Treasury Department, too, they put out some guidance initially that where the loans could be repaid over 10 years at 0.5%. Now, again, that was all kind of guidance, and kind of overnight, those terms were changed and were a little less favorable, though not completely, unfavorable. A 1% loan for 2 years is not a bad thing, but we certainly think that loan that's kind of a ridiculous loan repayment time window. 2 years needs to be stretched out much further than that. So yeah, there's we got some good stuff, but we certainly have a lot of work to do.
Okay. Well, let's switch gears a little bit, because of course the other major thing about this is that that we have to have. We're talking about the airline refund program. The airline. I'm talking about ticket refunds, and this is something you've been out there. What is the status of airline refunds to passengers now that the DOT has issued this enforcement action to make airlines provide such refunds?
The enforcement action was really just kind of reminding the airlines of the rules that are currently on the books. There was nothing new about that. It was more of a reminder. We have been working behind the scenes of the airlines, trying to again help our members to process the tremendous amount of money that's being refunded right now, and we've had some productive conversations with industry leaders. They certainly understand the problems and the challenges. I mean, the money that usually flows from agencies to the airlines is now all coming back the other way.
Right.
And it's really unprecedented in the history of the United States aviation system. And so there are some bumps in the road, and there are some friction points here. But I'm really confident that the people who are running the U.S. airlines are fair-minded people. Right. And that I believe that. And again, the conversations we've had have been very productive. And I'm not here to release anything from private conversations, but I'm confident that the U.S. airline industry is going to do right by its customers and by its travel advisors.
Well, the thing is that the other day the DOT issued that enforcement action, and I think the day after United put out a new policy on cancellations and refunds, and did not at all put anything in about refunds.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, James, things are just changing by the day.
Right.
And I don't know when that would It takes a little while for things to go up and down the chain, and I'm not sure. I don't think that United's message was in response to what the DOT had put out. It was probably already something that was planning on going out. Yeah. And I know that and again, we spoke with an airline yesterday. I don't want to name them, but they said they're just sort of starting to see some of these newer problems, newer challenges emerge with chargebacks and cancellation and refunding policies. So again, I think that the situation's really fluid. We're certainly in contact with our airline partners and helping them understand some of the unique challenges that we're having trying to process these refunds.
Right.
And again, I think the policy. I think airlines are again, they're run by really smart people, and they know there's going to be life after coronavirus. And what we're really focused on now is trying to help restore confidence in the travel system. Travel experience.
No, and great. And there are definitely some airlines. I've already experienced some that do offer refunds, so it's not everybody. So, hopefully everyone will get on board with this program, and also will recognize the pretty bad situation it puts travel advisors and travel agencies in, where you're getting, chargebacks and debit memos and things like that when their customers dispute the charges with the credit card company. So hopefully this can be ironed out very shortly.
Yeah, and that's certainly our position, that travel advisors should be responsible neither for the airline's cancellation policies nor consumer behavior. And I think that any fair-minded person would understands that.
Yeah. Now, we've covered two big issues there, and that's probably enough for this week. And hopefully, we'll get a chance to chat with you next week when some more things are coming out. Is there anything else you'd like to get out to travel advisors this week in general, and in terms of what ASTA is doing, as well as the benefits of joining ASTA?
Well, James, appreciate the platform. I just really, really grateful to ASTA members for all that they are doing in this time for their customers, for their businesses. We're obviously laser focused on trying to get them relief and trying to help businesses stay afloat, and again to try to increase confidence in the travel system here. what's really kind of a sad irony is that people who is that ASTA doesn't qualify for any of these particular programs that we've advocated for on behalf of our members.
Wow.
Because we're a nonprofit 501c6 organization, we cannot apply for the payroll protection program, nor do we obviously qualify for unemployment or being a ticket agent. So it's really, really important that people join their national trade association to allow us to continue fighting on behalf of them. And so I just want to say a special thank you to those ASTA members who have been with us there through the years or have just joined us recently. You're helping make the trade association stronger, who is fighting on your behalf.
Yeah. And then obviously for all those travel advisors and travel agencies out there who aren't ASTA members, you can sort of visibly see what ASTA has been doing for the agency business. So probably time to get on board if you can.
Absolutely. Room on the bus.
There you go. Well, Zane, thank you very much for filling us in on what's going on with ASTA. Hopefully we'll get a chance later in the month to talk with you again when there's more developments on the legislative front and round 4. And hopefully we'll have some good news to share about what all the airlines are doing in terms of processing refunds versus cancellations. Thank you very much for taking the time, and you stay safe and stay well.
You too. Thanks, James.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.